we're going to be checking out an old phone. This is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold5, and in a couple of months, the Fold 5 is turning a year old. And you might have questions like, how is it holding up in terms of performance? Has the hinge loosened over time? And is the crease on the screen more visible now? But I think the more important question is it still worth getting in 2024? Let's start off with the first question. How's its performance a year later? And the short answer is really great. And just to give you guys a quick recap of what it's packing in its foldable bod, you've got a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor paired with 12GB of RAM and up to 1TB of storage. This one that I have with me has 256GB. Now that's more than enough for me. I can usually work with 128GB because I don't hoard a ton of apps and I do periodic cleanups of my gallery so that I don't have like random screenshots from 2023, unless they're super important. The Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is still capable of getting me through all my tasks. Granted that this Tito can mostly be seen messaging with the team to coordinate on what we need to get done, browsing through the unboxed socials, which you definitely should follow via all the links in the description box, and watching YouTube videos. But the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 is still being widely used today and is still very dependable. Speaking of which, one of your questions to us is how long does a brand support this device in terms of software updates? On the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold5, we did get the latest update that gives you access to all the Galaxy AI features that were introduced earlier this year, such as Circle to Search, and all the fun things you can do with photos. But at launch, Samsung promised that the Fold5 would get 4 generations of OS updates and up to 5 years of security updates. Now, I can't see into the future, so if you happen to be watching this 4 years later, let me know if you're still getting like the latest security update for your Fold5 if you happen to have it. For the camera performance, the current generation of foldables from Samsung have been the best they've released to date. Now, as a recap, you have a 50MP main shooter, a 10MP telephoto, and a 12MP ultrawide. There's a 10MP camera on the cover screen and a 4MP under display on the main display. So far, the under display camera still camouflages itself, and this was actually one of the main concerns at launch. If over time you would see the camera more, and that isn't the case, thankfully. The shooters on the back still produce great images. Again, the best cameras on a foldable from Samsung to date, regardless which camera you're using, especially now that you can tweak and erase people from the background thanks to Galaxy AI. In terms of battery life, now we know that batteries degrade over time. Thankfully, this has been solid for me. I'm getting about 3.5 hours of screen on time with its 4,400 milliamp hour battery, which means I'm not reaching for a charger or my power bank midday, depending on my use, of course. Now let's move on to the question of durability. I've always been a firm believer that the more moving parts that you have on a phone, the more things can go wrong, which is why I wasn't a big fan of the whole pop-up camera movement. Do you remember those phones? But thankfully, a year later, everything is still on the up and up with the Fold 5. The hinge still feels very sturdy, and I think this mostly has to do with the fact that the cover screen has been adjusted from the time that we first got the Fold series. So if it's just a quick check for messages or killing time on Instagram, I tend to use a cover screen more now and mainly use the main display when I need to get some serious work done. Again, it's held up great over the past year. The main indication is that it still holds the angle it did when we first got it. And I mentioned earlier, I'm using the cover screen more now, which is the reason why the crease on the main display hasn't changed much either. I mean, you know it's there, but nothing too bad in my opinion. Thankfully, I haven't dropped this phone, and no, I am not going to do a drop test for you guys because this is a big investment. So if there are any of you who have dropped their Fold 5, let me know how it fared in the comment section. But Samsung did promise that their current generation of foldables will be more resilient to drops thanks to its armor aluminum frame and all the protections that they give on this device. What did come in clutch for me is that the phone has an IPX rating now. I don't recommend giving it a dunk, but this Fold 5 has gotten soaked because water spilled right next to it. I still don't recommend bringing this near the pool, but for tiny accidents like that, it's all good. So, is the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5 worth getting in 2024? This phone isn't gonna be for everyone, but for those of you who find yourself needing a bigger screen from time to time and don't want to bring a tablet, the Fold 5 still holds up pretty well. There are newer processors out in the market with the launch of newer devices. That's just a fact. But this is still very powerful for everything that you might need. And like I said earlier, Samsung says that they're still supporting the software for this device for a couple more OS generations and at least 4 more years of security updates. Plus, it's held up to my daily use and abuse, but I am pretty careful with my phones. So there you have it. That's the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold5 nearly a year later. Now, if you guys have any questions I didn't cover in this video, ask away down below. I will try my best to answer you guys there or via shorts so you guys are squared away. But that's pretty much it for this one. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. That will help us out a lot. And if you haven't subbed to the channel yet, consider subscribing. And that's pretty much it for me. My name is Tito James. Peace, God bless, and I'll see you guys in the next video.